Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to be doing my top 5 Christmas films of all time. Because it's Christmas, yay! And as you can see, my lights are on as well to make it more Christmassy and nice. So I hope you all have a very nice Christmas and Happy New Year this year. So I'm going to go on about my top 5 Christmas films. I won't do 10 because the video will be long and I know people want to see me anyway, so it's fine. So anyway, before I start the video, I'm just going to say that I have a TikTok. If you are not on TikTok, it doesn't matter, but if you are, then you can follow me. I will leave a link in the description box below like I always do because that's my social media. I do things on TikTok. I think just recently, today, because it's Christmas Eve, I've recently done an edit on there. I do edits, like Marvel edits, and with my favourite characters, and maybe just Marvel characters, and filters, and also I did ASMR on there for like people that want to relax as well. So yeah. What else? Oh, and if you can view this video in the background, I would appreciate it. Even if you leave it running in the background at Christmas, like today, if you're watching, if you leave it running in the background, then I much appreciate it because I need to get my views up now on YouTube and my monetization. So I need the views. So even if you don't want to watch it like constantly, just leave it running in the background and just do what you're usually doing. Like if you're doing something in the house or you're doing something, I would appreciate it because I really need the views and all that for my monetization to come back. And obviously where I keep doing it more frequently, or I'm trying to anyway, then there's that. But yeah, if you can do that, then that's cool. And that's all I'm going to say for the beginning bit, and then I'll go on to the video. So, my first favourite film of all time is The Snowman. If anyone's actually heard of The Snowman, you probably have. And The Snowman is an animated film which is about. It's an animated film about a snowman, and basically a little boy on Christmas Eve makes a snowman. And obviously he builds it, and then within all of Christmas Eve, it comes to life, and it's kind of like, whoa, I'm shocked, it's come to life, like it's magic, because it's like Christmas. And it comes to life, and basically this snowman, there's a sort of music interval, and they fly in the atmosphere, and the music is done by Alan Jones, who is a singer, who sings Walking in the Air, which is a Christmas song. And they fly around they fly around for a few hours, and then they reach a point where they meet other snowmans that are like him, and they come together and they have a party on Christmas. And they come together, and the only other snowmans like, have a party, and then he does it all in Christmas Eve, and eventually goes back to he goes back to his house and picks him up at his house, and then within Christmas Day morning he wakes up and the snowman isn't there. The snowman's like melted because the sun's come up, I believe. And there's that. So that's one of my favourite films, and I used to watch it on Christmas Eve onwards. It's one of my favourites. I think it's very sort of childlike, very like fun and all that other stuff. And my second favourite film is Santa Claus, the Santa Claus film, which has Tim Allen in, and it also has all other people as well. and they're all a family at Christmas. And basically, Tim Allen is a toy maker in the beginning of this film, and he basically builds toys for kids. So it's relevant to him being Santa later on. And eventually, he looks after his son on Christmas Eve, I believe. And then he spending time with his mum, and his mum and dad are separated, but his mum is with Alan, this guy called Alan, who is a psychiatrist, and Charlie keeps going on about how he's a psychiatrist and that he's like deals with the brain and all that. And he says something funny, he says really funny things about Alan, and they're talking about Alan in the car, and then eventually he looks after, Charlie on Christmas Eve, and he basically cooks on Christmas Eve. He cooks a turkey, but it ends up burning, I believe. So he ends up going to this restaurant, and they spend Christmas there instead. What else? What else? I'm trying to think. Sorry, mate. So yeah. Anyway, he then on Christmas Eve, Santa Claus comes and he falls off a roof, and he falls off a roof, and then Charlie, because Charlie wants to see Santa, so he goes out, and then he falls off a roof, and then obviously as he falls off the roof, he disintegrates, and then his coat is just left. And basically there's a card, and in the card, he brings the card and he goes on the sleigh and goes all the way to the North Pole. And the elves tell him that there's some kind of clause where it says that anyone who kills a previous Santa, they have to become Santa. So he has to become Santa now. And he said, I can't become Santa, on Christmas. But it's a funny, lightweight film. And with Tim Allen, I think in the end of it, he basically, throughout the film, he's Santa, and then he eventually gets arrested because they think, he say, yeah, right, you're Santa, and they arrest him, and all the other elves rescue him in the end of the film. And then he basically, gives Charlie a sleigh ride all the way, because he comes back because he misses him as well, and doesn't want him to leave, and he says bye to him, and then he comes back and he hugs him and everything else and says, do you want to go on the sleigh and let's have a sleigh ride? So he takes him, and obviously his mum says only one ride, Scott, because eventually in the film the adults believe that he's Santa eventually, because they try and take him to a psychiatrist and don't believe, and he's supposed to keep it a secret that he's Santa. As eventually Tim Allen says, you can't tell anyone I'm Santa, and you can't tell your parents this because they'll think you're crazy and all this, and they don't believe in Santa because they're adults, which I understand. And eventually, in the end, everyone believes he's Santa. They let Tim Allen's character see, Scott Calvin, see his son at the end, and basically they go off on the sleigh, and she says one ride, Scott, and that's it. And he goes, okay, yeah, sure. And then he doesn't listen, and then the sleigh goes off, and she goes, Scott, and she gets annoyed. But yeah, that's the end of the film. But it's a really sort of magical, sort of fun-hearted film. It's my second favourite film, and I watch the Santa Claus films near Christmas a lot of the time, so I do like it. So anyway, the third favourite film is Home Alone, and there's two Home Alones, and they're both different. And this is about a boy at Christmas called Kevin, I believe, and he's got a family at Christmas, and they're getting ready the next day to go on a trip, and they're all rushing around packing their things, and he says he's in his mother's room and she's on the phone, and she goes, go and get packed, and he's like, packed and all this, and it's Macaulay Culkin who is Kevin, and his dad has a go at him, and basically he's a different child within the family, and they keep saying he's a misbehaved kid, and everything. So, you know, and then obviously they leave him up in the attic at prior to Christmas, and he stays up in the attic, and then she said they have an argument, his mum and Kevin, and she says you can stay up there until you behave, and she goes, oh, well, what about the little boy I'm sleeping with? And prior to this, he's with his family, and he had a pizza, and somebody ate. Buzz ate his pizza, and then he had this little boy that wets the bed that sleeps with him, and he wants to change rooms, and he asked Buzz prior to this that can he switch rooms and can he sleep in his room, and he goes, you're not sleeping in my room, you can't sleep in my room. And so then he stays up in the attic, and they leave him, and they go on the plane, because the sister does a head count on the kids, and she thinks this other little kid is Kevin, so they think that Kevin's come with them, but Kevin hasn't, and he's at home, and anyway, he's left at home, and he thinks he's finally made his family disappear at Christmas, but he hasn't, if you know what I mean. And I think, sorry. Yeah. Then anyway, they basically go on the plane, and she freaks and says, "Oh, I feel like I've forgotten something." And he says that the uncle says, "Oh, I left my reading glasses at home. It doesn't matter. I forget things all the time." And she goes, "Oh no, I feel like it's something, but I don't know what." And then eventually she realises, and she says Kevin's name from the plane, and she's left Kevin at home on his own. That's why it's Home Alone. And there's two Home Alones. There's one where his family leave him in New York City, and he stays there. And there's all these characters in it, and they're really cool films actually, both of them. And I've been watching them prior to this. My third favourite film is Christmas with the Kranks. And Christmas with the Kranks is a film where their daughter is going off on a trip, Blair, and you have Tim Allen again, who's in most Christmas films in it. So, and you have his wife, who's Jamie Lee Curtis, who is his wife, and basically their daughter's going away for holiday during the holidays, so they won't see her, so they get all emotional and sad and like, oh, we're not going to have Blair this year. So Tim Allen thinks of an idea to go on a cruise for Christmas, and his wife says, agrees to this and does all the things that he wants to do, while in the meantime all the neighbours around want them to do Christmas and want to put Frosty up and want him to do all these things. And his neighbours are funny within the film, because his neighbour calls him old man and says old man, and he gets in the car and says, I've got loads of work, bye. And then prior to this, she's not doing Christmas this year, and she's with her friends, and she's doing the soup kitchen, and they tell her that Beverly, her friend, her neighbour, has got cancer during Christmas. So she basically hears the news and goes round, and them two Tim Allen and the other guy, who's the old guy, argue back and forth about Christmas and all this other stuff. And then she says, I've just heard about Beverly, I'm really sorry, and starts hugging them and stuff. And they, she says sorry about her having cancer. And obviously eventually Blair comes back, rings her mum, and her dad rings her, and she rings them and says that she's coming back for Christmas. So they all panic, and they all panic during Christmas, and oh my god, like she's gonna come back, so we have to get what we're gonna do. So at the last minute, they have to get all the neighbours' help to help them get Blair to come here without them knowing that they weren't going to do Christmas, and they are now. And then she has a boyfriend as well, who's kind of like he's foreign and stuff. And the police officers find this, while they're bringing Blair to the house, there's this robbery going on, and they're chasing after him. And then obviously the robber goes into the car, and they go, and they get all freaked in the car, and basically the man goes in the car and they've captured him, and then they bring him to the house, and then within the house they're having Christmas and they're celebrating Christmas. And then obviously you have a little boy who I know very well, and he lets him out and he sort of steals stuff, and then the Santa sort of, who is the guy from the shop who sells umbrellas, he's actually Santa, and Tim Allen finds this out near the end of the film. What else? I think. And I think in the end of the film, basically he does a good deed because he wanted to go on the cruise and he didn't want Blair coming home, and he didn't want to celebrate Christmas, and he basically is grumpy about it. And she says, Jamie Lee Curtis says, don't be grumpy about it, you know, Blair's home, we're having Christmas, we're spending it as a family. And Tim Allen realises that there's the old couple next door who are his neighbours, and they're not really doing anything for Christmas, and she's got cancer, and there's all this sadness around. And so he basically goes and gives the cruise tickets to them, and it's a nice sort of thing to do. And they say, what about the cat? That's nice, but we need insurance, or the insurance is covered. And he says, oh, what about the cat? We need someone to look after the cat. And the cat doesn't really like him throughout the film because he keeps doing stuff to the cat, and it's funny. And so they say, oh, I'll look after the cat, don't worry, you just go and have a nice time at Christmas. So Tim Allen picks up the cat, and the cat starts going haywire and chaotic. But it's a fun film, and I really like it. It's funny, and it's light-hearted, and it's Christmas, and it's just very nice. Where was I up to? I'm up to 4th. Am I up to the 4th or 3rd? Yeah, this is the 3rd, so the 4th. My 4th favourite film. Oh, I'm gonna have to think now. I've lost track now where I'm up to. I think it was the 3rd. We was on the 3rd. We did the 2nd one, so this is the 3rd. Oh no, Home Alone was 3rd, wasn't it? This is the 4th. We're on the 5th now, so this is the 5th one. And if that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is 5th. I'm on the last one now. The last favourite film is, I will say, The Grinch. Because The Grinch is a very funny film. It's very sad as well. And within the film, the Grinch is different. And he doesn't want to spend Christmas because at Christmas, he liked this woman who was actually dating the mayor now. And this little girl believes that he's not really that scary because he saves her, and he doesn't mean to save her, but he saves her, and apparently she believes he's not that different. And eventually she eventually lets him come down for Christmas so that he can accept an award, but it's not really an award, and he gets given these tweezers because when he was little, he was in school and got bullied by the mayor as a kid. He was bullied, and he fell in love with this girl when he did something for her, and she thought it was sweet, but he didn't like himself because he looked different, and so he shaved his hair, and basically when he took the bag off, he had all these like you know, white spots where he'd been shaving, and he looks kind of different and weird, and everyone laughs, makes fun of him, and he's all upset, and the woman who was actually dating the mayor as a little kid feels like kind of sad about that, and wants to like you know, say don't worry, you know, let's say don't worry about all them making fun of you, because she still loves him somehow. I think she's always loved him throughout the film. And basically the razor, when he accepts the award from the mayor, is when he was a kid, and he basically feels sad about it. And there's this little girl who actually has faith in him and thinks he can change and he can love Christmas again. And eventually he does. He eventually loves Christmas again, and well, he doesn't at first, because he's sad, because of the Whoville people making fun of him and not really appreciating him. He basically steals all their gifts and pretends to be Santa and goes around doing all this stuff to kind of ruin Christmas, but then realises that he really shouldn't ruin Christmas, and that he wants to kind of save it, because the little girl says that's all our presents and we need them, and you can't do that because it's Christmas. And so he kind of has a heart, and he saves Christmas. But I just like the film because it's sad, and he's seen as very different as well. And the Grinch is played by Jim Carrey as well, who is very funny and amazing, and an amazing actor as well. So that's my last film. That I've talked about all the films within this Christmas film, not Christmas film, but Christmas video. And guys, I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas, every one of you, and I hope you have a nice new year. This is going to be my last video. I'm really sorry, guys. I hate to say it, but it is my last video because I'm spending Christmas with Jeff over the next few days, and I might not do anything for Christmas. I was tempted not to do this video actually, but then I am doing it now, and I'm glad, because it's been stressful, you know, and I know Christmas is a stressful time, and I know you're probably all thinking, oh, it's a stressful time and all this stuff because you've got to get gifts and you've got to do all these things, but now it's finally come, so everyone can have a nice safe Christmas and be less stressful. But yeah, hopefully you all have a nice Christmas. Hopefully I've talked about all the Christmas movies within this video, not film. I'm sorry, I keep saying film, it's my brain. But yeah, I hope you all have a nice Christmas, and I will see you after Christmas, hopefully in the new year, because it's a new year and everything. So hopefully you see me in the new year, and everything. So hopefully you have a really good Christmas Eve and Christmas Day tomorrow. And I will see you all guys after the new year, like in the new year, sorry. So I'll see you guys in the new year, and I love you all, and have a nice Christmas. Bye.